Oh, I see in the comments. Hello there, indeed, Jeremy. Hello, everybody. It's me, Gareth. We're live with AutoCrit. I'm just making sure that the YouTube side of things has caught up live. Yes, indeed, it has. Hello, welcome, everybody. Um, as I said, Gareth here, and this evening we are here to talk a little bit with our guest, Joshua Sterling Bragg of the Haunting Season podcast. Say hello, Josh.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
I see we have some people here, names you may recognize. Josh, we got Tom. Tom Coombe from
Yeah.
Pennsylvania. Hello, Laurie, Mick, Celissa, Ray, Shay Wise. Hello, Las Vegas. So see if anybody from the UK manages to jump in at this point. Yes, we're getting the Beard Gang together once again. Now today, hey Wendy, I don't think we will spend too long of your time going over certain things, but it's really a well, kind of an announcement and some information or directions for everybody within the AutoCrit community. Some great news for you if you are not currently an AutoCrit member, because you might want to be after what we go through. But not to bury all the details, AutoCrit is now a sponsor partner with the Haunting Season podcast. We're hopefully helping them to continue and grow and bring more great stuff. I will let Josh get into exactly what Haunting Season does. And you can always check out the website. I'll give a link later on, and the YouTube channel and all that great stuff. But boiling right down to the basis of it, now Josh and myself and lots of other people, we all met together on the AutoCrit Nightmare Fuel horror writing course, which is, of course, headed up by myself. As many of you know, if you have taken it, I've seen some of our current and former attendees here in the chat. Wendy, my son-in-law loves Haunting Season. There's one for you,
Yes.
John.
That's awesome.
So
Somebody knows who I am.
we've come together with them, and I wanted to just take a minute in the beginning of this as well to talk a little about Nightmare Fuel, because when we present it, we sometimes see people who seem quite far into like careers in writing horror. Definitely very well established and something as professional and productive as Haunting Season. Josh, can you take a minute? Just tell us about your experience with it. You know, how did you come across it? What made you join in? How did you find it? How did you find the community side? All of that good stuff.
Yeah. So I was just getting my show back up and running after a couple of years of hiatus and life changes. And I was looking to, I guess I was discovering about myself that I wanted to be a better writer than just someone who churned out a story and put it out online. I wanted to take that next step. And I don't know if our phones listen to us as much as we think they do, but I started getting advertised kind of on the weekly this AutoCrit, one version or another of an AutoCrit class. And I had clicked on it a couple of times and took a look at the pricing and everything. And eventually thought, now's the right time. It was the middle of the pandemic. I think it was February or March this year. And things were kind of slowing down a little bit at work before we got into busy season, and it was cheap enough. So I thought, even if this sucks, it's worth the money to just, check it out and have it be a first stepping stone. And what I didn't realize was that it was going to be have such a huge impact on what I do on a daily basis. The classes were incredibly fun. They came with a ton of material for me to go over on my own. A lot of homework that I took very seriously, because I'm the type of person who, if I don't do it in the moment, it's probably not going to get done. So there was the temptation to be like, oh, this is a lot of stuff, I'll get to it. But I wanted to really push through it. And I think that's why I got so much out of the class, was because even though it was 1 or 2 classes a week for 4 weeks, I was busy every single day trying to make sure I got everything done in time so that I can make the most out of the live sessions.
Yeah, I think why we try not to do too many live sessions as well is, like, if you're spending every day stuck on a live in class, you're not going to be doing the work, just staring at a screen.
Yeah, and it was very engaging for a remote class, and the chat was just alive the whole time. So quick sometimes I would get distracted because I wanted to be in on like all the little side chats. But we also did a good job of posing questions, and Gareth, you hung after class for a good amount of time to make sure that every question was answered every time. It just felt very well rounded and focused.
And where I guess all this kind of came from leading up to this point was that I saw you inside the Mighty Networks member community. Now, I think some people who are watching this may not be, paid AutoCrit subscribers or AutoCrit Pro members, as we call them. And sometimes on some of our live streams every week, we do get people asking, what's Mighty Networks? Because we use kind of shorthand for that. We just call it Mighty Networks. That's the platform it's based on. But what it is a private community. If you think of it like your own little AutoCrit Facebook, more or less, that comes with paid membership when you're a pro member. All of this partnership kind of came when I saw you in there, both sharing shows and connecting with other people who were doing the course. And then all of a sudden, you were like, "We've had episodes written by this person, and we're doing some cross promotion with other shows and things like that." So I reached out. How did all that come about? How did these connections happen? And what did you do there to find? Because we can call out, I guess, so far, Lore and Tom definitely for their individual hunting season episodes that have happened.
Yeah, and Charlie, Charlie and I did
Yeah.
a collaboration. Both he's got a storytelling podcast as well about dissecting his own nightmares. So we did that one as well. It I think came as the Mighty Networks was such a added bonus, I think, for me, because I had been doing my podcast for a little bit and I was able to get on some authors and talk to them on the podcast about their process, but I hadn't met any peers doing that. And any peers that I had met were maybe also podcasters, but not necessarily story writers. And the Mighty Networks gave me access to all the people who I connected with in the class through the chat, and specifically Jackie Murphy and Lore. The three of us kind of had our own little like comedy routine each class. And I felt really bonded to them. And I didn't want to be the weird bald bearded guy reaching out for a woman's cell phone number at the end of a virtual class where we've never met. Bald bearded married man, not to mention. Mighty Networks gave me an opportunity to reach out to these people in a really safe and secure way without exchanging personal information, so that we could connect on the thing that was important, which is the writing, and not have to worry about any of the other weirdness, which was really, really nice.
And to get that all squared under the rug, one thing to say is, would you recommend being a part of it?
Absolutely. I messaged around a couple of different people during the final week of the class and said, "Hey, do you think you're going to subscribe? Because I'd love to stay in contact." And a lot of us subscribed to the platform in general because we wanted to stay connected, and because it's hard to meet people who have the same drive as you, who have the same interests as you, and then also want to communicate. To get all three of that out of a class is really exceptional. And to have a one-on-one connection that then is put into this almost like an incubator where we can experiment and share our stuff and not worry about like, oh, am I oversharing on Instagram, or am I using TikTok properly, because people want different things out of those. This is just, it's like if you take your favorite things about a social media platform and then strip away all the people who don't like the stuff that you like.
That sounds like heaven at this point.
Yeah. Well, and not to mention too, I'm sure you're getting to this next, but the actual AutoCrit software has been huge for me as well, because I had no real like schooling on how to critique my own work. And my revision process was basically reading my story out loud and seeing if I had to pause because something didn't make sense. And the AutoCrit software gives me access to repetition. How many adverbs am I using? I've just learned so much from it. It's like its own school of Socratic method, because it basically just says like, do you want to look at this? and then you're like, oh yeah, I guess I do want to look at that, and then you start learning how to write better.
Yeah, I think that's the greatest strength. As you said, is kind of Socratic in a way, the way it goes, because you gradually learning what to look for, and it's not just it's not somebody doing it for you. It is actually hammering it into your brain as you go, and that's a really great segue actually, because I was going to say, um, how have you found that versus in the past? If people don't know, Josh is the like narrator extraordinaire for Haunting Season. He's kind of hosting all the shows, and when you have written a story and you're going through it kind of pre and post AutoCrit, have you found it easier to actually not stumble over yourself when reading them live?
Yeah. Yeah. Part of that is the repetition of going over it several different times through all the different summer reports that it can run. It just puts the words in my brain a little bit more sturdily. But then I think also there are times where my writing, I've found, I even found this morning going over a story that I'm writing, where the logical way of reading it means that the beginning of the sentence is describing the end of the sentence, but the end of the sentence is supposed to be in the middle of the sentence, and you don't really sometimes catch that in yourself because your brain knows what's going on, and so you could read it 100 times and it's still fine. But then grammatically, you're describing a fence as opposed to describing the house that the fence is around. If that
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah, definitely. Now that all said, as well, I want to focus on Haunting Season. Tell us about Haunting Season, because there's a little bit of a surprise here for, well, maybe not a surprise if you've been poking around Mighty Networks recently, but we're going to clear some things up. What's in store for the AutoCrit community? Tell us about Haunting Season. What's the goal of the podcast? What is it you do? And tell us all the cool nuts and bolts.
Yeah. So I started in 2013 with a friend of mine, and we identified that there wasn't really horror content on YouTube. And he's a big, like, back end YouTube strategy guy, and I'm more of a personality. And so we came up with the idea of Haunting Season. And really, the first 3 episodes were me telling real life ghost stories from when I was a kid and used to run around and cause havoc. Um, and those did really well. And so then the challenge became, well, those are my 3 stories, so what do I do next? And I started writing, and I have always liked performing. I went to school for theater. I've always liked storytelling. I'm a filmmaker as a profession, and it just kind of was like the perfect storm. And so for 2 years, every single week I put out a story. And sometimes there were 5-part stories and they happened over 5 weeks because I didn't know where the story was going and I was in the middle of writing it. So I just create a cliffhanger. All right, that's the 10-minute mark. And then approach it again at the beginning of the week. And I got super burnt out. I went through a lot of life changes, as you do when you're in your 20s. I moved to Los Angeles. I got this job as a cinematographer, and now I'm the creative director here. So it's been years of building my personal career that kept me away from writing. And this past October, we decided as a company to bring Haunting Season full force back, not only with a YouTube show, which is the original form, but also with a podcast. And now there's a TikTok. And so Haunting Season, as it is right now, is every other week a story on the YouTube channel. Every other week on the podcast, we do the story just as it is on the YouTube channel, and then have a deep dive afterwards, usually with a guest, on the stronger themes in the episode. And then on off weeks when there's not a story, we just do the same thing without the story. We just have somebody on to talk about cool shit. And then the TikTok is mostly movie reviews right now, because that seems to be what's doing the best. So it's horror movie reviews, and talking about anything kind of current in the horror space, or answering people's questions.
They all kind of little quick fire reviews.
Yeah.
What works on TikTok.
Yeah, 1 minute content. It still takes just as long to write and produce and perform and edit and post. Maybe not so much as like a 15-minute story on the YouTube channel, but it's a lot of work, and it's daily. But it's so much fun.
And like I say, everybody can see the banner there, hopefully on screen, hauntingseasonpod.com. We'll get you links to all the platforms that Haunting Season is on. With recent episodes, I can't remember, what was the title of Charlie's episode, which was about the dream?
The Penanggalang. Um, I don't know if we called it the Penangling. I don't know. The guy who I started Haunting Season with, he's now gone on to have a whole YouTube company that manages many, many different channels. And I have a team over there because we are still connected who sometimes retitles my stories and just, to make it better for the algorithm or whatever.
Well, I definitely know in most recent episodes we had the Cameraman Kills and
Mhm.
Rise of Pukachin, I believe was the other one from lore, which was highly entertaining. And every time I say it, I have to try actively not to say Pikachu.
Yeah.
But it was a good little story, and yeah, check them out for sure. The podcasts are magnificently presented with really great audio. Definitely put your headphones on and let the audio work in your headphones. Great sound effects and all of that. I thought your performance. I think I said to you in Mighty Networks, Josh, as well. Your uh, long-awaited finale to the haunted or the abandoned asylum um, search around was brilliantly acted. Really, really, really great narration. So check it out, hauntingseasonpod.com. Now, the big announcement that we really have to get into with some details on is as part of the AutoCrit sponsorship of Haunting Season, we're actually going to source some stories for upcoming episodes from the AutoCrit community exclusively. Now, I believe that starts with looking for a great little gold nugget of horror for Halloween, because you're going to have to stand out for Halloween. Um, the details themselves, the actual link, you do have to be an AutoCrit Pro member because it's all held within Mighty Networks, the private community. Hopefully that squares all that confusion away. But Josh, can you tell us about what it is you're actually looking for in a story? What might people have to, what rules do people have to stick by?
Not too many, actually, because I don't want to stifle anybody's creativity. I try to make the theme each time, and I've done this, like you said, twice on my own, and so now we're going to be doing this the next 3 months together. I try to make the theme kind of loose so that your imagination has room to run wild. But the things that I know are definite barriers when it comes to publishing things, especially on YouTube, because that is one of the main platforms for the actual stories, is strong language. The F word doesn't fly too often on YouTube. You can get away with one once in a while. So that's why I say kind of skirt the line between PG-13 and R as far as language goes, because you can get away with a very specific use. But, if you're someone who writes a lot of swear words into your work, that might be a challenge to produce and get a lot of views on. And sometimes they can even just take the audio out and you don't realize for a couple of weeks you've just had like a silent film up there of me standing in a black void. So that's one thing. And then likewise, I think intense sexual scenes, whether positive or negative, can be hard to get out there on YouTube. And other than that, there aren't too many other restrictions. I'm a huge fan of ghost stories and gothic horror. I feel like that's where a lot of my stuff lands, is long descriptions of the environment and the feeling of being in that environment, and allowing the tension to build to like the one big moment. But I've also been experimenting since this class with some cosmic horror as well that gets pretty gory and gross. And I'm open to all of it because I'm just a huge fan of that like shock moment where your jaw hits the floor and you had no idea it was coming. Lengthwise, we find that under 18 minutes is ideal. Under 15 is probably even better. But I know that can be difficult for some people who are used to writing longer form. And then the thing that I try and remember every time, and we do this with the editing as well, with you mentioned the music and the sound effects, has been something we're really focused on because we want it to be more than just an audiobook. We want it to be audiobook meets like big cinema. And so keeping in mind that the viewers and the attention span of internet viewers is relatively short. So if you can get a scary moment within the first 2 or 3 minutes, even if it's a mini scare, that will really help invest somebody in the story and keep them watching through that full 15 minutes.
I was going to say as well, probably a good idea, I guess, if they kind of come up with something that has opportunity for some good sound work.
Yeah, and I'm not opposed either to having any notes like that written in the script, like stage directions. If you have a great idea for like, I really want to hear the creaking of the floorboards, because that's something I will lean on because I know my own work. I'll lean on, okay, I don't need to describe the sound of the floorboards too much because I'm going to add that in there. And then sometimes I will describe it more because it's not as important to me because I want to surprise with the scare afterwards. So we might not lay in the sound of the floorboards and just talk about it because you feel less tension listening to it in an audio form.
Would you say those things are kind of what you just said? They're the biggest things that tend to catch your eye when it comes to a story that you could produce or feel like, yeah, that's really going to be great. Is there something that would maybe be lacking that you would be looking for in a submission?
Um, I think just keeping it. I think really simplicity is key for this because um, not only are you competing with people's attention spans and distractions, um, but also when it's in a strictly written form, your mind can be structured by visually seeing the words and staying locked onto the page. Whereas with this, the only visual is me standing in a black version of this, just a complete black void. And so the story needs to move at a pace and not wander, I guess.
We had a question from Bob. A good question. I know the theme this time around is One Dark Halloween, but does this particular one have to mention Halloween?
Well, the idea is to release it Halloween weekend. So that's really where the idea came from. I don't think I'll turn something down because it doesn't mention Halloween if it's a really great story and it has those Halloween spooky vibes. For me, I was thinking probably what people are looking for on Halloween weekend is something really spooky, something that just kind of gets your whole body tingly, and that could just involve the spirit of Halloween, which for me, being an East Coaster originally, is like, crunchy leaves and autumn. So I would say if you have elements of Halloween, but you don't necessarily mention Halloween, but it feels like Halloween, that's great.
And Wendy wondering, script or regular story?
Oh, regular story. Yeah, these are audiobooks for your ears. And like I said, there are ways that you can kind of minimize description if you know that it can be used in the sound effects. And you can leave script-like notes for me in there if you have ideas about sound effects and you're intentionally leaving something out because you want it to be only be heard. That's all fine by me. I don't feel particularly strong about writing structure as long as it reads like a story when I put it in my teleprompter.
And there's one thing you did mention in the introductory video inside Mighty Networks about point of view considerations.
Yeah. I'm white and a man. So if you're writing first person and that person isn't white or a man, it might not be as believable or might also tend to be problematic. So if it's third person, it can be whoever. If it's first person, you might want to consider who I am as a human being. Although I have played the role of female before or non-binary before on my channel. I'll just be keeping an eye out, and so will my wife and my producers, to see if anything becomes problematic with me being the person reading it.
It's like this is too far out.
Yeah.
Well, that said, I think that is really the core of everything that people need to know for this. Submissions close on
September 30th at midnight, I think we
yep,
said.
I think that's
Yeah.
correct. And yeah, to submit if you have a story ready, or if you have something that you have already written and think, oh, I'll just trim that up and get it together. Maybe it'd be good for this format. Yeah, first of all, check out Haunting Season. I'll pop the banner back up here again so everybody knows. You get all the links you need there on huntingseasonpod.com. Definitely watch a few episodes or binge everything, however you like to do it. And see if one of your things could work in there or write us something new. The submission link is inside Mighty Networks. It is in the, if you haven't kind of traipsed in there yet, it's inside the Horror Writers discussion group, and there's a specific topic for the Haunting Season podcast. Everything you need to know, including the submission link, is in there. But if anybody here, if you do get lost trying to find it or need more info on any of this, just reach out to me inside Mighty Networks, and I'll be happy to help. I hope that sums it up. I hope we see some really great stuff coming. And of course, to all of you out there, whether you're part of the member community in AutoCrit or you're a member of the public too, remember what we talked about when it comes to AutoCrit's Nightmare Fuel. I'll have a little banner there for you as well. AutoCrit.com/nightmare is a 4-week horror writing course, including live lessons with yours truly, and lots of great stuff. And of course, great people. That's why we have Josh right here. So thank you for coming, everybody. We keep it short so you have time to write. Go come up with something, and I will very much enjoy listening to it. And thank you for coming, Josh. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, Gareth. And I'm really excited to read everybody's work, whether it makes the final cut or not. You know, we're picking one story for Halloween. I know I'm just going to enjoy the heck out of everything. So feel free to submit, even if you don't think you could be a winner.
And to sign off, I'll agree with Ryan. This is going to kick butt.
Yeah.
Thanks all. We'll see you around. Bye-bye.